Welcome to the new IT. The new IT. We're here in the new IT today. What are we talking about today? What's going on in this world, this crazy world of IT that we're talking about? Brad, what are we talking about today?
Oh my cloud.
Oh my cloud.
So what we wanted to do is focus on more cloud technology, what it means, where we're going with it. So we actually brought in an expert who focuses on cloud, and we brought in Hossein from Advantage IT to help us kind of get a better understanding of why companies should go to the cloud.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Hossein.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
You know, when we have guests on, we don't always have guests on, but when we do, we got to learn a little bit about you. So let's talk about your past history of what cloud compute, how you've gotten involved, what your company does. You know, any of that stuff you want to talk about, just to get off and kind of get off the foot.
Start off on the right foot.
There you go.
That's
what Brad's here for, to kind of
Just a little bit.
So just kind of tell us about your business, how you got where you're at.
Sure. So I think I'm a nerd. I don't have a life, so this is all I have passion for.
Understood. This room understands you.
Typical IT person.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my company is called Advantage IT, and the company itself is actually about 8 years old. But I was not doing this full time till about 4 years ago that I jumped full time into it. And before that, it was more like a consulting gig, on the side, because I was working for bigger corporations.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a background of working for mainly banking and healthcare, and then I decided that, I kind of want to do my own consulting gig, full time. So here we are. Our company's focus is actually cloud services. And I will dive into it because cloud is a very big word.
We talk about it all the
meanings,
time.
Right?
It's just some magical thing out in the ether somewhere, right?
I know, it's somewhere. Yeah.
Nobody
Somewhere in the Ethernet.
There's hardware somewhere, people. Cloud does not mean is a piece of hardware somewhere. So anyway,
there's that famous joke. I don't know if you guys Googled that, but it's if you Google like cloud is just someone else's computer. There's like tons of jokes on that, right?
Exactly. It's somebody there. Basically, at least when I think of cloud, all I think about is that it's not on my property. Is that, am I wrong there?
No, it's not here. You can't feel it. You can't touch it. It's cloud. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. And to me, cloud also means somebody else is taking care of that hardware, not me.
Yeah.
To me, that is the big value, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's my thought is, I don't have to worry about the hardware. I don't have to take care of it. I don't have to update it, upgrade it, do anything to it. Somebody else is doing all that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of cloud to me.
Yep.
Sounds like a great benefit, personally.
I think it's why it's taken off, right?
Exactly. So cloud is a very big word, and a lot of times it's used in places for the other terms, right? But again, they all go under the cloud umbrella, right? If you look at it from like the infrastructure perspective, right? Cloud could be a bunch of servers, databases, wherever they can store data that's, not where you're working, not on your premise, basically, right? So that's one side of it, right? But again, think about the investments, right? So it's not cheap to set up a proper infrastructure, right? And you guys are both experts in this field, right? You have to buy a bunch of servers, you have to buy a bunch of switches, networks, find great data centers, host them. There's so many things that goes with it, right? So just the initial investment in the hardware is crazy expensive, right?
Yep.
So that's one aspect of it, the infrastructure side. But remember that
I tell clients that specifically. So we can spend $15,000 and get you a server and put it in there and get you some switches, about 15, 20 grand. Or you could use an infrastructure that they spent millions upon millions of dollars on. Which one do you think is going to be better?
Exactly. Like, why do you want to reinvent the wheel when somebody already has, a lot of people actually have already done
and made it really good?
It works 24/7, 365, almost without a hiccup.
Yeah.
So why do you want to just start over and do all that investment, right? But also the other part is when you have that kind of infrastructure, there's expertise that goes into managing it, maintaining it, expanding it, supporting it, right? So you might be able to put a dollar value pretty quickly on hardware, but what's a dollar value that you put to the expertise that comes with the cloud provider companies who actually manage that cloud? I mean, I'm talking more from the infrastructure, infrastructure as a service, right? But cloud, again, there's other meanings to it, right? We call all the softwares that run on those kind of infrastructure also cloud software, right?
Right.
So, but overall speaking, right, I think there's a lot of investment both from the equipments and server and infrastructure, and also the human investment, the expertise, knowledge that goes into it.
And when we talk about the new IT, I believe that is the future. That is where everything is going to be going. And if you're not understanding that, if you're looking for jobs, if you're learning what you need to learn, if it's not connected to what you just said, the expertise of all that back end stuff, you're going to have a hard time.
Exactly. Back in 2004, 2005, I was working for a company as a senior system administrator, and these guys had a web-based app, right? And their clients were like really big companies, including Alaska Airlines, New York Times, like some of those big names, right? So these guys had to set up the infrastructure, to basically maintain. And I remember how much money we threw into that, right? It took us literally a good 6 months to purchase this stuff, put it together, set it up, get going. And that was just the beginning.
And that was just a side thing for your bit. It wasn't even the whole business.
It was just, but it took us literally 6 months that we were able to deploy the first line of code to that infrastructure to run, right? Nowadays, you can have a startup, thanks to cloud, right? You can have a startup.
AWS,
you can be up and running tomorrow. There's no 6 month wait period. Yeah, no 200K investment, put it there,
It's like 5 minutes and you're up and running. I would
exactly.
think. Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy.
It's not going anywhere, people.
No.
This is the new IT. It is the future. And if you're not on this train, you're going to be forced. I mean, let's face it. It's just like newspapers trying to catch up with the internet. It's not going to happen. You either got to get on the train or you go away.
And this whole new concept, it's not a new concept, this whole concept of cloud, right? It bled into everything in our everyday life. I mean, look at the email, for example, right? How many more companies do you know that they run their email on premise versus going to a cloud provider like Microsoft or Google? Almost none.
Yeah.
It's not worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to use Microsoft.
Anybody that's had to deal with an Exchange server,
why?
Never do that again. I have sworn that off many years ago.
You have the option to pay like $5-10 a user a month, $20 a user a month, whatever, right? Whatever plan that you want to go on, right?
And your budget, you're not going to get any surprises with hardware failing or anything. This is the budget. This is how much we're paying. It's beautiful.
And you know what? It just works.
It just works.
It
It upgrades itself. Somebody does it, but I don't care.
I don't have to do it.
I don't have to do it.
Right? Versus, again, how many people do you know that they want to run their own email server on premise? It's crazy.
Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah.
With all this said, though, this is the interesting part of this whole thing. So where is the jobs? Where is the IT jobs now? Where are they hiding? I think that's the key to my thought of this show. What do you think, Brad? I'm going to throw it to Brad.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely.
Me and Hussein's been going at it.
You're totally fine on that front. I mean, well, first off, I mean, you guys, this is your industry. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of the newcomer to the group, but no. Having said that, I believe that the jobs are in cloud, not only in cloud but software. So where we're going, and kind of where Hossein was saying,
which we talked about SaaS last time.
Exactly, last week. So
which is also not going away.
No, and you put those two together, and it's going to make it more user friendly. So personally, that's where I think all the jobs are going, focusing on AWS, focusing on Azure, focusing on Google Cloud. But that's the thing, is you can dive into so many different paths with that. You can go into software, you can go into networking, you can go into system admin, you can go pretty much anywhere.
But are the jobs changing? Or what you need to know changing?
No,
what do you guys think? I'm open this to everybody.
I'm gonna let you answer that one first.
What do you think? Are the jobs changing, or are they just moving to a different chair?
I think it's a different phase. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like morph into this thing. Because like I said, back in days, it was. I know I'm talking a lot about infrastructure, but I think that's a very.
It's relevant.
It's very relevant example,
absolutely.
right? Because so here's the thing: back in days, right? Infrastructure was something that had a cost, and you need engineers who understood it really well, right? So that's how they can do it. But it was almost like a burden, because if you don't have enough infrastructure, you couldn't do much, right?
Your company was behind everybody
Exactly.
else. Your competition was far ahead of you.
So with the technologies like virtualization and all those stuff came help, but it's still you were limited to whatever you had. Now you had all these infrastructure as a service providers like AWS, like Google, like Microsoft Azure, all those guys.
You can
right?
be a small town company, look just like the big dogs.
Exactly.
You have all these ahead of you, right? So now the question is, okay, so you no longer really manage physical infrastructure anymore. What do you do? So now you have all this whole land that you can do whatever you want, right? You can now it's all about automation, Now it's all about, maintaining that whatever software application or whatever purpose that you're using that cloud services for, right? It's also about security on it, right? Because again, it's everyone's land,
Yep.
So now it almost like it's a job security, I think. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot more problem to solve right now, because we solved a major problem that opened the gate. Now there is all the other things that you have to deal with.
It's opened the gate.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now there's a ton of people trying to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that same standpoint, in that same thought process, when I look for talent, I mean, the first thing that I'm looking for, it doesn't matter the position, I'm looking for their critical thinking skills. I want to make sure that they understand and they know that just because they're focused in on one technology or one software, how is their critical thinking? What are they doing to be able to say, I know I'm going to have problems. I know I have to problem solve. How is that going to work?
I agree.
Yeah. I've got to know. So we on the show, we throw terms around all the time, and we kind of have this question, and I want to understand, for me and for what you guys think. I mean, I know what I think. That's why I'm asking you guys.
Absolutely.
Cloud developer or cloud architect. Is there a difference? Are those two specific different things, jobs, people out there? Can you want to give it a shot and kind of explain those two things and what the difference is, if there is one?
I will give my own version of this. I think everybody might have a little bit different opinion on definition of the words, right? But
This is a new world.
It's a new world. I think we're still trying to figure it out. But
yeah, I kind of modify your question to like cloud engineer versus cloud architect, right? And I tell you why I do that in a second. But to me, the cloud engineer, or almost like cloud developer, is a person who is involved on a day-to-day operation of a cloud, right? So maintaining it, expanding it, scaling it, right? But like it's a day-to-day operation. Basically, your job is to make sure this thing, whatever this thing is, works smoothly.
You're the one taking care of it,
right? You're taking all the aspects on it, right? Like that's where the DevOps guy comes in, right? Here we got this software, make it run on here,
Mm-hmm.
And there is also the other role, the cloud architect. We kind of look at the bigger picture. He's not necessarily, he or she's not necessarily focused on a day-to-day operation, but he or she's focused on making sure that
What's the next level?
Can it expand with a bit? Does it support the business needs, right? Is this where we need to be, or do we have to go bigger? Do we have to switch directions, right? He kind of sees from kind of the high level, right? To me, that's a cloud architect, right?
Yeah. I mean, expanding on that too, I mean, I still think that the architect does have to have ownership of the project or the overall what they want to do with that cloud technology. So if they're trying to integrate Salesforce, or if they're trying to integrate some sort of software, how does that tie into app integration? How does that tie into everything else? So it's not necessarily just the day-to-day, but it's the overall, what do we want to accomplish from it?
So for those folks out there that are in the IT space, excuse me, in the IT space, what should they be looking for as a job? What do you think, Brad?
I mean, honestly, it really depends on where you're passionate. But I mean, there's, in terms of like certain things that you need to know. I mean, obviously you need to understand what cloud technology is, and then you need to find your passion from there. I mean, you can be a data scientist that still works in the cloud. You can be a software developer and still focus on the cloud. So it really just you need to understand where your passion lies and follow that.
So I think you just brought up a big thing. Those jobs are still going to be around.
Oh, absolutely.
All
They're
of
not
that
going nowhere.
stuff. It's just, Are you going to be working with specific companies that do cloud services, and not work at regular corporations that are just using all those cloud services? You see what I'm getting at? Is IT going to be smaller at the corporate business level and bigger and bigger in the cloud service? Are those two gonna separate? Do you see where I'm going with this?
I think I kind of know where you're going. I mean, I don't want to say they're going to separate by no means, but I think it's going to be more streamlined. I think you're going to have set processes in place to where things are already there. Take, for instance, software, for example. Adobe Experience Manager is a cloud service. They're already making it so that you can pretty much get up and running within a matter of a couple days and set your instances, so that way you don't have to worry about the security and all of that. So you're coming into the game ahead of the curve already, and then you're just being able to bring in the people you need for specific jobs.
Isn't that just taking it away from the businesses? They don't have to worry about it. Even, like Advantage IT, you deal with accounting companies, a lot of accounting companies, and you kind of take away all of the technology worries, right? They don't need an in-house IT person, none of that stuff, because it's all taken care of in the cloud. Good. And that's just going to keep going, right? Eventually, we're not going to have much IT departments, and I think consulting folks, need to understand this. It's a changing world, and it's not going to be the same here in 5 years.
So I'm glad you brought it up. Actually, I was going to kind of like talking to it from my personal experience, with our own clients. But here's the thing. So as you mentioned, we're very cloud focused, right? Our specialty is when it comes to accounting firms and law firms is desktop as a service, and that's a very common service that we provide, right? We basically take their infrastructure and applications, whatever it is, but make it run in a cloud, right? But here's the thing. So anytime people think that, even here in Utah, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of companies, right? But here's it. The cloud is honestly one of our winning factors when we talk to anybody. Because here's the thing. Everybody on a traditional IT side pitches the exact same way of doing things.
They do.
Yes.
They
yes,
do.
You might like their personality of one person better than the other one, and you connect more with them, right? And that's totally cool, right?
That's really the only difference.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, you and I both came from the same background, right?
Yep.
We all do the same thing, right? We all do the same thing. But when you bring the word cloud, it's a game changer, right? In other words, like my typical pitch when I talk to a prospect that is kind of like not sure who we are or on the edge or doesn't know much about what we do, this is the pitch. It's like, you know what? You're currently working with an IT company. You're maintaining a bunch of servers, a bunch of workstations. You're paying them by the hour. You're paying for this and this and that. Once you start working with us, you will no longer need to maintain any servers on site. You no longer care about the computers that you purchase. You can just literally go to, like we call DI. I hope it makes sense. You can go to DI, buy whatever computer you want. It's still going to work because it's just a little tiny client connects to the cloud, right? Because all the processing, everything is there. So my point is, it's a great also sales aspect. Like if any IT providers out there, any IT consultants, any guys, is not using the word cloud in their sales pitch, I absolutely highly recommend you guys to reconsider your sales pitch, because everybody's doing the exact same thing, right? You want to be distinguished and you want to be different.
Yeah. And if you don't, you're not going to be around very long.
Exactly.
Not in this world. The new IT is all up in the cloud, or on somebody else's hardware somewhere.
I also
In a
want
data farm.
I also want to add one more thing under this, moving to the cloud, and everybody's going to cloud, right? And honestly, it's probably going to be true for a lot of businesses, right? There's still going to be some business with high compliance requirement that is still would be maintaining their stuff on premise, like banks.
Absolutely.
I come from banking industry, so I kind of banks are probably the last one to jump on a cloud train, right? But again, it's the exact same concepts, right? Think about the bank as your private cloud provider. You know what I mean? So they have unlimited resources, hopefully. Yeah. And
right.
you can still be a cloud engineer, but work on a private cloud or on-premise cloud or anything like that, right? The concept remains the same.
The concept is the same.
Yeah. Same, yes.
Somebody is taking care of that, and it's not you.
Exactly.
So two-part question on that. So why do you think there is such a lag behind on the financial industry to adopt cloud, and when do you think it's going to change?
It's a behemoth.
That is a behemoth.
I don't have the answer to the second part of it. I don't really know when it's going to change. I know. Well, here's the thing. There are a lot of good and bad stories when it comes to financial banks moving to the cloud. I give you guys an example. Capital One is actually one of the very first major banks in the country, right? That they moved the entire infrastructure to the AWS, or a major part of the infrastructure. They were. And guess what? We all heard the story. They got compromised, right? So then everybody in the banking industry were like, "Oh my gosh, they compromised. We're not going to do cloud. It's not secure, right?" First of all, cloud is if not more secure, it's probably as secure as any. It's just like where you fire things up, right?
Yeah,
security is
that's the funny part that people don't understand too. It's security wise, it's the millions of dollars that they put into building whatever that was, and usually that's security is a part of that.
Exactly. And security is not just one thing that you flip on and off, right? It's a whole practice. It's a layered approach. We're not going to get into we're doing another podcast on security, right?
Oh, we should. That is a good idea, because security is not going anyway. We could go down that road.
So, but my point is, when you guys go read the story on that, right? Basically, what happened is, long story short, there was a rogue employee on the Amazon side. He had all the credentials and getting. This could happen to anything. This is not about cloud, right? So I think there's a lot of fake fears in the financial industry about going to. There's a lot of great companies who already made the move to the cloud, but I think banks are kind of just always late to this again.
Yeah.
So
they're a behemoth that moves like a snail.
I thought they've
always been doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, that's true. But I thought I heard something along the lines. I mean, wasn't there like some government regulation kind of saying they couldn't go to the cloud or something like that? I mean, that was years and years ago. I could be wrong. But
again, I'm kind of rusty on a compliance requirements, because I haven't been banking for a few years. I haven't direct dealing with the banking for a few years.
Well, I mean, when you were there, I mean, wasn't that a thing, or is that just something I'm imagining?
It was. So I don't think government would ever tell you on that back then, that directly that you must host everything on premise. But I think they made the requirements so difficult that it would be a lot easier to do it on premise versus going to someone's cloud, because then you have to work with them. You have to make sure, right? But on the other hand, we have a lot of compliance in the cloud today, right? I mean, let's talk medical HIPAA, right? There is a lot of HIPAA compliance cloud or cloud services out there as well, right?
They even tout it a lot of times. A lot of cloud services tout, "Hey, we're HIPAA compliant.
Yeah.
You can use us for HIPAA."
Exactly, right? So I mean, the clouds now do have all those compliance certificates, like SOX, like PCI, all those, clouds do have those compliances today as well. It's one last thing on this note. It's like you buy the fanciest security system for your home or office. You forgot to lock the door or arm the system. It's not the security system's fault. It's the operator.
Right. Exactly.
That's
and that makes
100%.
sense. And that's what I get.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Wow. I think this has been a good show. I mean, we could probably go talking for a couple hours.
Oh, I think we could.
But I think. You got any last words, both of you, about cloud stuff? My last word is, it's not going anywhere. You better get on this train, especially IT services and people out there looking for IT jobs. You better be on this train. That's my last words.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if we're wrapping it up quite just yet, but I mean,
what are you talking about? I just wrapped it up.
I know. I get you.
We could go wherever you want.
We can.
I've been the controller of the time, and
you're fine. I guess my last thoughts were, or I don't know if it's last thoughts, but my last question would be, what is the difference in cloud, and how do you know to choose one over the other? I mean, is there any benefits?
Oh, there's only a couple to choose from, right?
Yeah, just like a few hundred, right?
A few hundred.
It's I'm gonna focus the answer on just the infrastructure part of the cloud, because like I said, I think cloud is a very big word, right? Let's say we're talking about infrastructure as a service, IaaS, right? Yeah, the big players are out there, like AWS, like Azure, like Google Cloud. These are the top 3 big players out there, right? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you this, guys, there is a lot of competition, and there's a lot of good competition, right? Our company, as an example, when we started to look for a cloud provider to host our on-premise infrastructure, I hate to say that, but we had to actually migrate ourselves too, right? We looked at a bunch of different cloud providers, right? I mean, there are a few different aspects on it. There is a price, there is security, there is support, there is expandability, there is redundancy, there's so many questions that you have to ask, right? But you think the big guys always win the game. They don't. My point is there is a lot of opportunities, to either get a job in any other in other than big players,
Yep.
smaller cloud providers, because now it's all about the niches. It's all about how better you fit the clients. Like, yes, everybody's providing, and also the numbers don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you can go on their website and you can see the specification. It looks good until you actually run. You don't see the problems. Like, you go into it and then you realize what. So my point is there is a lot of good competition, right? But the market is so huge. Like, people with good services.
There's
can
plenty
still
of room
get it.
for folks, and
Yes.
we've talked about this. This is the best time for the little folks than ever before in history, in my opinion.
I agree with
because
you on
of
that one.
what we
Yeah.
can do for so much little. Right?
Yeah.
Talking about that, I've had a client that we worked with, a cloud service that wasn't one of the big ones, and I got to tell you, it's been 2 years now, and man, I call them up. I get a person. They freaking help me every single time. It's they keep everything clean and up to date, and they let me know when stuff's going on. And they're try and do that with Azure or
I don't.
or AWS.
You can. You just have to
You
pay a ton
crap
more.
more. Exactly. Yeah, they're as nice to you as much as money as you give them.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Cool.
And honestly, they care. I think the smaller cloud provider care.
Yeah, they do. 100%. It's exciting. I'm excited for the future. I think we've got a lot of cool stuff coming around the corner. We're just touching the surface of it.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, awesome. What do you think, Brad? Can we end the show?
Nah, maybe. No, I think I'm good now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to the New IT. We will see you next time for the New IT.